Welcome, everyone, to the Sports Writers. There they are, Phil Stacy, Matt Williams, Nick Giannino, Nick Kukaru. The Sports Writers joining us here on MSONewsSports.com and SalemNews.com. So we record this on a Monday evening. And gentlemen, Monday was the first day of winter sports. I know, Nick, up in your area, I saw a tweet that Gloucester hockey started an early morning practice to get underway, probably the first of many other schools starting with early morning hockey practices today, being Monday. But just a quick thought from you guys on winter sports. We'll do very brief, and then we'll go into some football.
Yeah. So we're starting up. I mean, there's not a long lag between the end of football and into the winter sports. And certainly we tend to have kids who play basketball or run track that played football. So it might take them a little while to get their legs, but everybody else has essentially been done since early November or even maybe mid-November if they made a nice little tournament run. So I'm sure our hockey players, basketball players, indoor track, wrestling, swimming, gymnastics are all eager to go. Our skiers. We did have some early morning hockey practices, like you said. This is a time of year I always feel like athletic directors really earn their money because they're juggling the gymnasiums, all the different times for all the different teams having makes us some long days.
Yeah, you have varsity, you have JVs, you have freshmen, you have all in different schools for different sports. So I think it's probably even much trickier scheduling in the wintertime than it is in other times as well. Plus, now you've got the weather factor that might play in once in a while too. So winter sports is here. In football, we learned today, Monday, that Bob Serino, the coach at Swampscott High School, is stepping down. He's retiring from his position at Swampscott. And Matt Williams, I know you tweeted about that today, but pretty successful job he's done over at Swampscott High School.
Oh, great job! I mean, you look at the Super Bowl history, right? That we published today as well. And Bob Serino sits right there, 2-0, and it's not too many guys that have done that. I mean, that's you think about the history of Swampscott High. I mean, they've had 5 head football coaches since 1953. 5, that's it. And Bob Serino's the only one that's won 2 Super Bowls. Now, the majority of Stan Bondalevich's tenure came before the Super Bowl started in 1972, right? So that comes with a small asterisk there. But still, I mean, when you think about the guys that coached at Swampscott High, Stan Bondalevich, Frank DeFelice, Bill Bush, Steve Dembowski, and Bob Serino, and that's it. And 2 of those guys are on our Mount Rushmore, top 11 coaches of all time list that we did at the Salem News. And Bob Serino's got, more Super Bowl championships as Swampscott head coach than those guys. I mean, that just goes to show you what a great success he had. 52-34, qualified for the playoffs in 6 of 7 possible seasons with the 8th season, no playoffs for fall 2. And, a 12-4 playoff record. So kudos to Bob, a man of few words, a man that was a great steward, I think, of the game of football, entrusted his assistants, trusted the guys around him, whether it was his son, Robert III, or the great Peter Bush on defense, or any of his line coaches. The other thing I love about Bob is he always brought young players along. Eric Burgos, the head coach at Triton, who just had a great season, came along and learned under Serino's learning tree. Chris Cameron, very recently graduate, still in January, and Cam O'Brien. So, if you love football, you could go coach with Bob, and if you had passion, you could go learn from him, and he would never turn you away. And you got to love that. He was just a really, a little bit gruff, right, at times, a man of few words at times. But then once you got in under that tent, he would give you anything under the sun. And I really hope he enjoys his retirement. And I hope we see him around Phillips Park and Bloxage Field in the near future. I mean, knowing Bob, he's a Swampscott lifer. If he goes away, he won't be going too far.
Yeah.
I mean, Phil can share some stories about some of Bob's dry wit on the sidelines. He
I was just thinking that. Yeah.
He would always turn to us, in a light moment. I mean, he was very intense and fiery, But then when the team needed a boost of morale, he could be jovial and he could be screaming and yelling at the referee, and then in the next moment turn to filler eye and fire off like an Andy Rooney line, and like a little depreciating humor. I really loved being on the sidelines with him for that reason. I don't know, Phil, if you could think of a story off the top of your head that's appropriate for the podcast.
I can think of one that isn't. 2019 state semifinals was I stepped a little too close into the coaching box along the sidelines, and he quickly and politely, let's call it, asked me to get out of there, which I did. Last year, 2021 state semifinals against Bishop Fenwick and his good friend Dave Woods. He was cracking some jokes with us. In the third quarter when they finally started to play, I think the way that they were capable of playing, and that's how you play big blue football, smack them in the mouth, that kind of thing. And Bob did have a good sense of humor. I don't think he, as Willie alluded to, he didn't welcome a lot of people in outside of that, the bubble that they have there in Swampscott, which is why I think they're so successful. But once you were, and he knew he could trust you, you have a good friend.
I think my favorite part of that story about the coaching box is that he seemed so angry and so intense in the moment. And I remember you were a little taken aback, like, geez, I hope Bobby's not mad at us or whatever. And then as soon as the game was over, he came over and gave you a big hug and said, you like how I yelled at you when you were
yeah that's right.
He completely
I told you to get out of the coaching box with
kind
a
of
big
busted
big
chops.
smile on his face.
It's really
he loves busting chops. That was the one thing I gathered from him.
Just one of those guys that I feel really
and
fortunate we got a chance to get to know, and will be missed. I really will miss talking to him on the sidelines.
I don't know how many other coaches, head coaches, make their own meatballs and sausage for all the linemen. No skill players can eat it, but he makes the sausage and meatballs for the linemen, and that's a great trait that one of many that Bobby has.
Very good sense of humor, and like you guys mentioned, very good assistant coaches. I think that's a sign of a good coach when you have good assistant coaches.
And he trusted them. He totally
yeah.
Absolutely.
So
I think it's too, like, not to get off topic, but I mean, it just goes to show you how hard it is to, how much these guys put of themselves into coaching. I mean, he lasted 8 years, and I mean, he put everything into it and just didn't have much left, I guess. It's just, goes to show you some of the guys that hang around a long time, you got to marvel at how they are able to find the energy and stick with it. It's really, I don't want to use the word thankless. I'm trying to find a different word, but just, everything these guys put in, it really is draining, I think, and they ought to be saluted, especially in football. And that's not to, bemoan the other sports, but the amount of work and energy it takes to be a head football coach is really, something else.
The Stan Bondaleviches and Jack Welches and Bill Broderick's of yesteryear are far and few between these days. In longevity.
Yeah, he's I think I can fairly say this. I mean, you got to respect a guy that really focused on football, and he wasn't always reaching out to the media, was he? You know what I'm saying?
No,
but he was the nicest guy.
But when you got him, he was
the nicest guy. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and very thoughtful. Yeah.
It didn't. I don't even think it entered into his orbit to be bothered with that stuff. He was worried about.
And I can respect that. I respect that. Yeah, absolutely.
You'd never confuse Bob with a self-promoter.
No, not at all. Okay, so let's go on here. Do you want to talk about Super Bowls or Thanksgiving?
Let's touch base on Thanksgiving for a little bit.
Yeah. Okay.
Why don't we start with the Salem Beverly game, Phil?
Yeah, that was surprising. I mean, Nino and Willie took Salem.
What'd I say, Kooks? Confidently.
I said confidently too. Confidently, I'm picking Beverly. just the year it's been for me.
I did not see that coming, but in hindsight, I probably should have. I think this game really meant a lot to Salem after being embarrassed last year, giving up 60 points in a quarter and a half last Thanksgiving in Beverly. I think Beverly had been playing better, but the mistakes that hurt them all season resurfaced on Thanksgiving Day, and that wasn't a good thing for them. Everything went right for Salem, and everything didn't for Beverly. It was a real, it was just a contrast in game styles, and Peabody came out. I'm sorry, Swampscott. Yeah, let's try a third try, Phil. Salem came out and scored, stopped Beverly, scored, stopped Beverly, scored, stopped Beverly, scored. I mean, it was just boom, 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 boom. 5 possessions, 5 touchdowns, 33-0 at the half. Did I think Salem could beat Beverly? Sure, of course. I mean, they had a winning record. They have some skilled guys, strong up on the line. But I was surprised that they beat them that badly. And I think it says a lot about the leadership for Salem. And it's a small senior class for Salem. I mean, a lot of their skill guys return next year. Corey Grimes will be back at quarterback. Devontae Asuna will be back in the backfield. Quinn Walker Ryan will be back in the slot. Shane Field will be back as the fullback and linebacker. So this could be a nice little, Salem could find itself on a little bit of a run here. It depends on what kind of schedule they have next year. And if they do move divisions, they're currently Division 4. I don't know if there's been some talk where they might be moving down. I don't know if those are already set or not. But there was talk that they might go down to Division 6. I don't know about that. And for Beverly, again, I think that there are some decent younger players on the team, but they need to, I thought Jeff Hutton, the head coach, put it really, really well to me after the game when he said he pulled aside some of his, guys who'll be leaders next year. Excuse me. And said, I want you to remember this. Remember what this feels like. Remember what the score was. Remember that they scored with their first team offense on the last play of the game. And the usual coach speak to get his team fired up. But he says, hey, it's a rivalry again. Beverly cannot just show up and beat Salem like they had done. I don't want to say that was the case, but they won 16 out of the last 19. I think they felt they were always going to find a way to beat them. That's no longer the case anymore, especially with so much talent coming back for Salem. So Beverly's really going to work at it and, get back, or they'll be in the same position again next year on their home turf.
Yeah, they got to get some speed. I mean, I don't know how well those comments played. I was looking at some of the comments online, but hopefully it gets the kids fired up, I guess. But the last alignment does have Salem in Division 6, which is a little curious considering Essex Tech is in Division 1. So, hopefully the MIA will get that sorted out.
They have Essex Tech in D1?
Well, that was as of October 13th. So they're redoing it. This is based, I guess, solely on alignment, enrollment rather, although Salem is obviously way too big for Division 6. So that seems to be
Curious.
I don't know. I've been instructed or requested not to spend so much time bashing the MIAA. So I'll just present those two numbers without comment. Essex Tech in Division 1 and Salem in Division 6. And then with all due respect to Essex Tech, I think Salem would have beaten him by a couple of touchdowns this year.
Matt, do you want us to read between the lines, Matt? Is that what you're asking us to do?
I'm not making any assertion. That is no interpretations. That is just the facts. That's just what it says on the piece of paper.
I won't do it, but I know Nick Kukuru will. Right, Nick?
I would guess honestly that Salem can't have too many less students than Danvers, and Danvers is Division 4.
Let's see. I can tell you right now. If I do,
while you do that, Dick Giannino, why don't you hop in and tell us about the Masco Fenwick?
Proposed to drop down to Division 5. They have 779 people. I don't know if this is boys that are total, and Salem is
that would be total. Yeah, they
total
9 boys.
Well, so Salem's total alignment enrollment is 804. But their adjusted enrollment is 575. Now, so there's a column CEM adjusted enrollment, which is not defined. So I don't know exactly what that means, if that's based on, some sort of economic thing or how many kids you lose to technical schools and things of that nature. But there's a CEM adjusted enrollment cuts Salem's alignment by about 33%. Enrollment. I keep saying alignment instead of enrollment because I'm dumb, but that's so this CEM is basically what's dropping Salem down. It would seem. Maybe we can get a special guest on sometime. Oh, here we go. Competitive equity data is what it's called. CEM, competitive equity modifier. So there you go. We're learning something live here on the podcast.
Whether
Thanks,
it's
Matt, for all that.
I won't bore you by reading this whole thing. But percentage high needs. Yeah, it's the Massachusetts state average for high needs, which is like basically like a special education percentage. Stability rate measures how many students remain in the district, which is basically like kids that go to private school or drop out. So if anyone wants to log on to MIA.net under alignment, you can read about all this. Like I said, I don't want to hijack the podcast boring you, but I guess that's why Salem's drops down as compared to Danvers, even though the total students is only like 15 or 20 apart. I guess this competitive equity tool is is what's going on there.
Gotcha. All right. I think we got a minute or two. We got a couple of other games. Nick Giannino, do you want to do Fenwick Masco?
Yeah, I'll touch upon that briefly. Obviously, Masconomet got the win. It was the first meeting between those two teams on Thanksgiving, and I think it was the perfect matchup. I think they should continue to do it in years to come. I guess, Gavin Monago, Masco's coach, and Dave Woods both said that they're locked in for 2 years at least, so that we'll at least see them next year on Thanksgiving, and they hope to continue it, after that as well. It seems like, again, a good matchup, two North Shore teams. This year in particular, they seemed very well matched, pretty evenly matched. So it was a good take, good crowd. And Bishop Fenwick, I think, even speaking with Woods after the game, they might have not been quite as motivated for this game after falling on the last second field goal to North Reading in the playoffs the week before. But they made it a game. They came out in the second half and they scored quick, and then they got a turnover and nearly scored to take the lead. So it was a back and forth game. I think a couple mistakes here and there, and obviously we got to highlight Will Shannon for Masconomet ripping off a career high rushing yards. I think what do you have, 224? I think it came out to, give or take a couple yards, and a bunch of touchdowns too. So huge game for Will to wrap up his career there in Masco. And yeah, those kids took it personally. They had went against Fenwick in 7-on-7s earlier in the year, and talking to Will Shannon, there was a little bit of back and forth in that summer session between the two teams, a little bit of maybe a little rivalry brewing there. So it's good to see them clash on Thanksgiving Day, and I thought it was a great contest. Hope they can keep that matchup going.
Nick Kukuru, how about Gloucester Danvers?
Just kind of, continued the trend. Danvers with 5 straight wins, 4 straight on Thanksgiving now. After that 28-0 win. Turnovers was the story of that one. 7 combined turnovers. Gloucester had 4. Danvers had 3. Danvers scored three of them into touchdowns. Gloucester couldn't turn any of them into points, which is kind of the story of their season. They look a little bit like the Mac Jones Patriots against the Colts and Jets. They'd move into the red zone and, penalty, false start, and push them back. They wouldn't come out with any points. That's kind of been their season in a nutshell, to be honest. Danvers, Owen Gazanowski, I think he had about 275 total yards. He had a big game rushing, especially in the second half. And when they threw it to him, and he caught it. So yeah, both teams, tough seasons, but Danvers finishes on the high note. If we're being honest, it was a really disappointing season for Gloucester. I think they had high hopes this season. They maybe played the easiest schedule they've ever played in the history of the program, and they only got 4 wins to show for it. So where they go from here, I do not know.
And you were able to sneak in a little Mac Jones attack there, I saw. So there.
Well, that's what I'd compare them to. They move the ball all right in between the 20s. They get in, inside the 30-yard line, and it's a little skittish.
We know what you mean, but while we're on the topic, Matt, why did you were at Peabody Saugus, so it was obvious it was all Peabody in that matchup.
Yeah, just Shea Lynch breaking the Northeastern Conference career touchdown pass record. Danny Barrett, who, breaking news, just committed to Endicott College. threw himself a touchdown pass on a razzle dazzle reverse play. Once Shea had the record, he was allowed to throw the touchdown pass. And best moment of the day was Mike Mastrocola, who we've talked about a lot. Getting on the field, he didn't put his pads on or anything, but they let him line up at quarterback for the first snap, and he got the snap and took a knee and got some hugs from everyone. And that was just really great to see. Mike starting to put weight back on and finish up his chemo. Obviously missed the whole season, but looks like he's going to come out of this whole leukemia thing okay. And that's what most everyone was probably most thankful for on Thanksgiving over there. And just real quick to say, too, beautiful stadium Saugus has. They got a giant video board. They show instant replays. I mean, what a beautiful facility they built in honor of the late great Christy Serino over there. And hopefully it attracts some youth players to build up the numbers in their program.
I didn't get to go in the press box either, but it seems like they have a nice press box up there on the other side of the field.
No, in fact, Steve Krause was complaining. I know this will be a surprise to everyone, but I didn't go up in the press box. But according to Steve, it's a terrible press box for morning and afternoon games because the side of the field it's on, the sun is right in your eyes the whole time, and you can't see anything. But hey, they got lights, so that's not only going to happen once a year. Knock on wood. You won't have to worry about that at nighttime.
Bring your sunglasses, Steve.
I thought it was pretty cool that not only the PVD kids went over and hugged Mikey after he took that knee on the first play, but the Saugus kids did too. I thought that was a nice, classy gesture for both teams.
Well, a lot of friends, the thing is, with the co-op wrestling team, Saugus low in numbers, but a lot of their football players do wrestle, and a couple of the PVD captains, of course, Giovanni Guglielmo is going to miss the whole wrestling season with his torn ACL, but Will Pinto, the big inspirational leader, is captain of the wrestling team. And so a lot of those guys are friends. It's a really friendly rivalry now. And of course, Phil, you can touch on if you want, or we can save it for a later podcast. The hockey teams, the boys hockey teams, are going to co-op too between PVD and Saugus. So you mix the blue and the red, you get a little bit of that purple pride there, I guess.
Yeah. We'll save it for another podcast, but that's exactly right. They, Saugus has never not had their program. PVD did not have a varsity program. Last year, they decided to get together this year and co-op first practice earlier today. So it'll be interesting to see what's happening over there in Tannerland, or I should say Tanner and Saugus land.
So you're saying the PVD Saugus players and PVD players will be on the co-op one team. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe under the PVD banner too. I'm not positive of that, but
okay.
Under the PVD.
Yeah, it's my understanding they're the host school, and almost all the games and practices are going to be there, but they are trying to get jerseys that are a little bit of a mix, kind of a purpley, similar to the wrestling coach Wayne Moda is a really good graphic designer and does some of that kind of stuff, and he's got some really cool threads for the wrestlers that are kind of a mix of the two schools. So as I understand it, the boys hockey is trying to do something similar to what the wrestling has that kind of represents both schools there on the jersey, which could be kind of cool. I don't know if that's going to be ready for the start of the season or maybe like a special thing that they roll out for certain games like some teams do with the alternate threads, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I wonder if they'll get to play any games at all at Kasabuski. I'll have to look into that too.
I think they might try to do a couple, but I think the majority will be there at the McVan, but I don't know that for certain.
I hear they're going to go by Peasaw. I mean, that's what I'm hearing. Peasaw. So
okay.
You might see that on their uniforms, or you might not.
Well, as long as it's not a hockey town, that place is perhaps a state of disrepair.
Okay, let's go. St. John's Prep in the Super Bowl against Springfield Central. This is the best team in the state, I guess. Springfield Central, unless you go to Catholic Memorial, but at least in Division I. You got two great teams, neither one of them the number one seed in the D1 tournament, facing off 12:30 at Gillette on Saturday for the D1 Super Bowl.
Yeah, I saw, and Willie pointed this out to me earlier, that the Springfield coach was throwing some verbal bouquets St. John's Prep's way, about being an elite program. That's what they strive to be, and this and all. I mean, that's great, with the Lou Holtz pregame preparation stuff. I think Springfield's a clear favorite. They pounded everybody they played, with the exception of that one game out of state. And they lose to a team from, was it DC, Willie?
I think so. Or was it IMG or was it somebody else? I'm not even sure, but it was somebody with many Division One commits.
Yeah, I thought Dematha maybe or something like that. I think they were so low because they had a hard time getting games. Nobody wants to play them. That out of state game doesn't help them. So
They tried to play St. John's, and they couldn't line up the dates. There wasn't the only open date, I guess, was week 2 again, and St. John's couldn't lose Central Catholic, obviously being
okay.
a longtime rival. So there is a lot of mutual respect between these programs, from what I understand, which is the preps been able to kind of play the Rodney Harrison hate card a little bit lately, but I get the sense that they don't, that there's more respect between in this particular matchup.
I think so. Yeah. It's not like a matchup with CM like they had in 18 and 19 where it was a bitter conference rivalry. As you said, it's a lot of respect. And if you know anything about Springfield, they have a galaxy of offensive weapons, and the prep has been playing some of its best defensive football over the last month. So it's going to be really interesting to see what they come up with scheme wise. Chris Tolios, defensive coordinator, and head coach Brian St. Pierre, what they can do to try to negate whatever Springfield is able to do offensively. I wasn't sure that they would have a full complement of players for their Thanksgiving Day game against Zavarian after beating Central Catholic 5 days earlier. They go out and really play superb defensively. I think with 8 sacks to beat Zavarian for the first time in only the second time in 9 years or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So they're playing really well defensively, and hot offense, hot defense. We will see what wins out.
Yeah, the Springfield team has scored 50 points plus, won twice in the playoffs, and 60 points in other games. So they're putting some points up on the board in the playoffs. So, gentlemen, anything else you guys want to talk about? Kip is also in the playoffs. North Reading, St. Mary's, Stoneham to meet as well. And so those are some of our North Shore teams in postseason.
It's be an interesting game. Stoneham just beat Reading on Thanksgiving, right? Reading that was like in the top 10 all year was supposed to be the cat's pajamas there, and so I mean, obviously it's going to be tough for St. Mary's, and that should be an interesting game.
Yeah, St. Mary's, of course, with David Brown, who's just named the CCL Tri Player of the Year, along with Costa Beechin from Fenwick, and who was it, Yanchuk from Bishop Fien.
They did Tri Players of the Year.
Tri Players of the Year. Well, it was a 3-way tie for first place.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
I think that's a cop out, but that's just my opinion. They're all good players. Don't get me wrong. They're probably all deserving of the honor, but
I suppose it's interesting. Like, would you rather have Tri Players of the Year, or would you rather say like, well, Player of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year, Special Teams Player of the Year? What was it? The Cape Ann League last year had about 12 Players of the Year on 8 teams, something like this. So I don't know what the best way to do it is, but
just pick one. Just pick one and put the other kids on All Stars. I don't understand.
Yanchuk did run for about 900 yards in the playoffs. I don't know. I mean, not to dispersions on the local guys, but all 3 of those guys certainly are all-state candidates, though. I mean, you can't go wrong.
For sure.
Makes you wonder who the Catholic Conference Player of the Year is going to be. I mean, Catholic Memorial's got all those guys going to Boston College here, there, and everywhere, and obviously Aguero for the prep is pretty good. Like, how do you choose there? I mean, even the Gatorade Player of the Year. You got to imagine it'll be either Aguero or this quarterback Watson for Springfield Central, right?
Yeah.
Hassan Howard be in that mix, maybe, for CM?
No, well, is he even their best player, or is it the judge? I guess that's one of those. Maybe that's one of those like 2008 Dustin Pedroia, Jacoby Ellsbury deals where they split the vote and somebody sneaks in the back door or something. Because I mean, the CM has so many weapons, right? Like the Datrell Jones kid is phenomenal. One of the fastest players in the whole state. I mean, I don't know who. They don't give us votes for those things, so I guess I don't know who I would choose.
Yeah,
I don't have to.
I just got to follow up here to wrap this up. We talked about the Nick Giannino All-Star game last week, and I think on Twitter, Nick, that caught fire, if I'm not mistaken. Am I wrong? I mean, now people are referring to this game as the Nick Giannino All-Star game, right? Am I wrong on that?
Yeah, a couple people have come up to me and said, "Oh, I didn't know you had an All-Star game named after you." I said, "Neither did I." I saw it on Twitter, and not really sure how to respond to that. I guess I'm grateful that they can recognize
Grateful.
me like that, but not sure if it's an official title or not. But hey, if they run with it, I'll go with it.
But they didn't really run with it. It was just on Twitter, right? I mean, did they run? Did they
Yeah, it
change
was
it?
just, to my
Oh,
knowledge,
okay.
it was just on Twitter. I
No,
think
okay.
all the other names of the other All-Star games are under
Legends.
gentlemen who have been deceased. So I'm still here. I'm still kicking. Maybe down the road we could have an All-Star game named after me, but pretty
Yeah.
cool nonetheless.
Yeah. Nonetheless, still, it was still out there. It was trending. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, gentlemen. Good talking with you guys this week. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk again soon.
Thanks,
Well,
Phil.
Thanks, Bill.